Hey there, my name is Joel. In this video, I'm going to modify this cymbal here. Actually, I'm not going to modify the cymbal because I know nothing, well, very little about cymbals. I've never modified one, I've never hammered one, I've never lathed one. I've watched lots of videos of people doing it, specifically a fellow named Timothy Roberts who has a company called Reverie Drum Company up in North Carolina, and he's actually a cymbalsmith. He actually knows his way around cymbals, and he not only makes his own cymbals, which you can find online if you look. I'll link to his site below, but he also modifies existing cymbals. And this cymbal is almost good. It's almost really good. It's actually a 20-inch Sabian hand-hammered medium ride. That's the official model now. It's 2,300 something grams, which is not quite medium. It's kind of heavier than medium. And in fact, most of these medium rides that I've seen, the hand-hammered rides, are really more like 2,600. I mean, they're really quite heavy. I don't know why they call them medium rides. But I was a big fan of Sabian. I still am a huge fan of Sabian when they came out, largely because their hand-hammered cymbals were truly hand-hammered. They actually had people wielding hammers in the factory there in Canada, people that they had brought over, cymbalsmiths from Turkey, who had been doing it in factories over there for Zildjian, and then of course Zildjian split into Sabian and Zildjian, and you know, Zildjian came out with their K line, which is not, or was not at the time, really hand-hammered as much as it was a drop hammer with a technician sort of placing it, which created sort of the random pattern and the complexity of the cymbal sound, versus Sabian, which had guys with anvils and hammers hammering away on the blanks to shape the cymbal, or to add complexity to a pressed, I think they still pressed the bell and the bow and stuff, and then they hammered them by hand before lathing them. And this is one of those cymbals, but it's a bit heavy, and this differs, I think, in a couple of ways from what Timothy normally does. I'll link to his channel, by the way, below, and I really recommend that you watch it because it's truly fascinating. But he has a tendency, I think with most of his clients probably, and I think maybe his own personal preference, is more for the old, like lightweight, fast, sort of explosive, responsive K Zildjians, the old hand-hammered cymbals, typically very light, very low pitch, kind of a trashy quality to them. I don't do jazz, really. I did in high school and college, loved it. Frankly, I would have loved to get back into it because I really did love playing jazz. But professionally, I've played pop and rock music and some country and stuff like that. But basically, stuff that has a pop sensibility to it. And frequency-wise, cymbals tend to be higher pitched in that genre because there's a lot of mid-range information guitars and keys and things like that going on that the cymbals have to kind of speak through. And unless you just want sort of kind of a white noise trashiness from the cymbals with not much articulation, you're going to need higher pitched and often sometimes heavier cymbals. And so I don't really have a lot of heavy cymbals, but my cymbals are a little bit on the brighter side. I still like some complexity. I still like them to be very musical. But I'm not into the trashy thing, and I don't find that to be terribly useful for pop music. This cymbal is just too heavy. It's kind of gongy. It doesn't open up quickly enough. It's not really crashable. And when you do really kind of lay into it to get it to try to open up, it takes a while to respond, and then it sort of hangs on too long. And overall, there's just kind of a hum or a note or harmonic that's just sort of constantly there. It's not very dynamically expressive. It needs to be thinner. It needs to have some weight removed. And Timothy, if I've been watching your videos properly, I think what that means is you're going to need to take off a little bit of the material closer to the edge to get the cymbal to open up a little bit. And by taking off the material, you're going to lighten the cymbal, which is going to lower the pitch, all other things being the same. So correct me if I'm wrong about that. But I've never touched a cymbal to try to modify it myself. The idea of doing that just blows my mind. I have no problem, if you've watched my videos, obviously I have no problem cutting drum shells to shallower depths and redoing edges and snare beds and plugging holes and going from, 6-hole to 8-hole or 10-hole, or, just repurposing shells. I work on drums all the time. John Zug, my buddy, does things for me that I'm not really good at, but I have no problem playing with drums. I've never done cymbals, and I don't think I'm ever going to actually get into it, but it really intrigues me and fascinates me. And this cymbal is almost really usable, but not quite. And so I think it's close enough that I want to send it to Timothy and see if he can just kind of put it over the edge, make it more like what I want it to be. And I think this will be a little different for him because, like I say, I'm not going for that jazzy K, dark, complex, trashy kind of thing. I really want it to be more a cymbal for pop music, pop sensibility. It is a ride cymbal. It's only 20 inches, but I still want it to really be a quality ride for that application. But I do want it to be a bit more responsive and to be able to open up for more crashable moments. And so that's really what I want it to sound like. I will show you now what it does sound like, so that way when I get it back, I can actually do a comparison and you can see what Timothy's done to it. And hopefully it'll be really, really cool. So see, when I lay into it, it's just got a little too much weight to really be able to open up. It's okay, I just want it to be a bit more responsive. And it's got that hum. I don't know if I call that a hum or call that a ring. It's higher pitched. That's what I'm hearing in my headphones, but I'm okay with the bell. I like the bell. I don't want that to change too much. There is some of that gongy harmonic hanging out with the bell. I wouldn't mind that going away. It's just kind of brassy sounding and aggressive, kind of peaky frequencies. Up there particularly. All right, Timothy, what can you do? And here I am opening the cymbal that has just arrived. And for whatever reason, I did not put on a microphone and do any kind of commentary. So I'm just going to do a quick little voiceover as I speed this up here. La, 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 la. Get to it. There it is. And we'll slow things down. Pull it out. Look at how shiny this thing is. Brand new. You'd never know this thing was like 30 plus years old. Do love that iPhone audio. There you go. So there it is. Let's go give this thing a try. All right, well, here it is. It is all nice and shiny and brand new looking, even though that the cymbal itself is actually like 30 plus years old. I don't really know how old it is, but it's old. It's been around a while. But it does look brand new with all that exterior kind of removed, revealing a thinner, leaner, meaner cymbal underneath. You might notice there's some stick marks here. I don't know which camera might get a better view of that, if at all. But those are from me. I actually was intending originally to sort of capture my initial impression of this by playing it with the cameras rolling from the get-go so that I could kind of get my true reaction or whatever. But I got this yesterday, and I didn't have time yesterday to do this, but I did have like 30 minutes to kill, so I went ahead and threw it up here and played it, of course. And I gotta say, spoiler alert, I like it. I like it a lot. It is not exactly what I was asking / hoping for, but that's not a problem on Timothy's part. I knew going in, I mean, I design electronics and things like that. And when it comes to, you know, like transformers, for example, there are certain characteristics of transformers that you can't have, you know, well, I won't go into all that, but it's sort of a trade-off. Two ends of a spectrum, and you can kind of meet somewhere in the middle, but you can't excel at two things. Like this can't be kind of a complex, little bit earthier, deeper type of sound and still have like a penetrating sort of rock ride bell sound, you know? And I said earlier when I was, you know, testing this thing before I sent it to him, I did like the bell, and I do like the bell now, but the bell's not quite as penetrating and defined as it was before. It's a bit more complex. There's more harmonics and things, which I would expect when you take mass off the cymbal. And so again, because I wanted it to be more crashable and I wanted it to have more harmonics and be more complex, I knew I wasn't going to get, you know, everything, because you can't really have everything all in one cymbal. But this is unique among my ride cymbal collection. I have several ride cymbals, and this is sort of a deeper, more complex ride than I have. But in spite of the fact that it's only 20 inches, and he took what looks like a lot off. When you watch the footage, I mean, part of me is like going, don't take off that much, you know, because it just looks like metal's flying off, you know, or whatever. But it's really like, you know, 40 grams here, 50 grams here. And it's not like a huge amount of weight coming off necessarily. And it's still a very penetrating ride sound. So I'll quit talking about it. I'm here describing it without letting you hear it. I apologize for that. I've already heard it, so I kind of have my thoughts about it. But let me just play it for you a bit, and then I'll kind of give you my perspective of the changes and what I think about it. So get my ears on here and my snares on. Okay, so just messing around with that a bit, trying to make it do different things, crashing it, and then immediately following it up with some, stick definition, just to kind of check and see that indeed it is still a ride cymbal. It does crash more now. So that's not bad. I probably won't be crashing it by itself, but probably with like a crash cymbal or something, add some emphasis. That's a nice sound to really add some punctuation to a big moment. But even after the crash, it doesn't lose its stick definition. So I like that. Now, that stick definition itself is a little lower pitched than it was before. It was a little bit more of a ping before, but that ping definitely had a gonginess to it, if you remember. I'll kind of play that back for you real quick. And now that gonginess is entirely gone. It doesn't have that anymore. It is actually just sort of a balanced. It definitely has some lows in it. Still has some low pitches. And in an exposed setting like this, where I'm not playing with music or other instruments, you can kind of hear the complexity of the low end of the cymbal, but I guarantee you put some electric guitars, like a rhythm electric, and some keyboards or whatever, and you start kind of building a mix, a pop mix around this ride cymbal, basically. A lot of that's going to go away, and what you're going to have is a lot of bright clarity and a lot of stick definition still. But like I said, that definition's a little bit more of a tick now than a ping. Again, you're not going to get the complexity and the lower pitch and the overall vibe of a slightly earthier ride cymbal and still have that sort of bright, penetrating, pingy sound with the stick definition. And the bell now is more harmonic. It has more overtones. Don't think it's as high pitched, but it definitely still has a strong bell. Now the bell itself is rather small. It's kind of a small target, so I got to be really careful to make sure I play it. It's a small bell. It's not like my my K Custom here has a really nice big bell. Real easy to hit that. And you can hear how high pitched it is too. But this is a nice, respectable, penetrating bell. And again, some of that harmonic content's going to go away when it's in the context of a mix. So it does retain its ride cymbalness. I was concerned when he was, he sent me the video of him lathing it, and he lathed it more than once. And just kind of the back and forth on the top and on the bottom. It just looks to me like metal's just shooting off that thing, and it's going to wind up being like a big splash cymbal when he's done. But it's not. It's a stout, heavy ride cymbal still. But now it does open up, and while not really a crash cymbal per se, it does have a crashability that's not gongy, it's not annoying. So he definitely took care of the mid-range honk, he took care of the gonginess, he definitely left it a ride cymbal in spite of the fact that it's only 20 inches. It doesn't really become like a sort of a big crash. Definitely a ride cymbal. In fact, I would say at my church I actually play a heartbeat ride cymbal that's a little too thin in spite of its 24-inch diameter, and it's just a little too washy, and I want more definition than it has. I'm actually going to take this and start using it because it's got some of the earthiness that worship music kind of likes, but it definitely has more penetration too. So it's good. I'm not used to it yet. It's still new to me. I haven't played with it a ton, but yesterday was just sort of seeing what it sounded like and felt like. Today I played with it a little bit more before I started rolling, and it almost sounded like it was slightly different today. In fact, I just liked it more today. Yesterday I liked it, but today it really felt more balanced and felt more like what I was wanting it to be. So I don't know if that's a psychological thing or if the cymbal continues to, the bronze continues to evolve and sort of rest a little bit. It's been like a week, I think, since he has machined this thing, so I think it's had time to settle. And that's something, by the way, that just blows my mind. If you know me, you know I'm really fascinated with how things work. And I am just amazed that bronze has to settle after you work it, whether you're hammering it. You know, if you've watched Timothy's channel, and I recommend you do because I think it's just incredibly fascinating. But when you work bronze, B20 bronze anyway, I imagine all bronze, probably lots of alloys are that way, but when you work it, machining it, hammering it, whatever, it kind of has to settle for a little bit. And in fact, I'll just play real quick the little bit of a video clip that he gave me right after he machined it for the first time, right after he lathed it for the first time, compared with when he played it again a few days later, having done nothing else to it other than just let it sit. So check out the difference. It's pretty stunning.
All right, so after that work, you know, it started at 2,340 grams. We're now down to 2,210 grams. Let's hear how it sounds right after the lathing. So to me, I can kind of hear how that's going to open up in a day or so. So, you know, as it is, it's a little bit choked and dry, you know, and a lot of times new cymbalsmiths might be like, oh, it's too dry, it's too choked. They'll shave a little bit more weight off of it, and then all of a sudden you lose stick definition. It's just a big crash at that point, and you haven't taken into account that it's going to rest and it's going to open back up. There's going to be more high frequencies that are going to cut through. There's going to be more shimmer and a little bit better of a crash, even just in like 8 hours. So I'll check back with this in a little bit, and we'll see if it needs any tweaks. All right, so this cymbal's had plenty of time to rest. Let's check out how it sounds.
Isn't that mind-blowing? I mean, that to me is just so cool. So I don't know if I can expect, I suppose I should give him a call and see what I can expect this to continue to do, but I think this pretty much has probably settled in. And I gotta say, I like it. I like it. In fact, I would say this is probably a really versatile cymbal because it's heavy enough to do ride duty in pop music, which is what I wanted. And I think I got to hand it to Tim. I think this is probably a little bit of a stretch for him, just in terms of I don't think his normal client wants something that's more pop oriented. I think I'm a little bit weird in that way. But man, I think he just knocked it out of the park because this really does fit well. I'm excited to try this in some mixes, to play it with some music, because it really does seem to have what I want generally from a pop ride cymbal. But it is still kind of earthy and just really organic sounding in a really great way. So, and it is more crashable now, though I wouldn't use it as a crash cymbal per se, but definitely adding some moments with other cymbals, you know. And it's got a nice bit of spread. You know, it's got a nice bit of wash and spread to it, but it's never overbearing. It never gets in the way of the rideness, and it never builds up as like that sort of a hum. The way it did before. So, all right, so I'm gonna stop, but I'm happy. I'm happy. Timothy, thank you very much for making me a cymbal, taking one that was kind of okay and turning it into something that was really a musical tool that I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a lot of use out of. So I'm very excited, very happy. Go check out, I'll link to his website, check out Tim's work, or Timothy's work. I'm sorry, I actually don't know Tim or Timothy. I have a cousin, Tim, so I tend to want to say that, but I think he goes by Timothy. My apologies if I got that wrong. But anyway, yeah, check out what he does, check out his site, check out his videos. I'll link to all that stuff below. And thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it as always. Hope to see you next week.